Paribhaj Gacharya Satarasi Sri Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Vihat Madanga Chancellor Book Distribution Ki Jai Nittai Gauravimanandi. All glories to the sum of the devotees. All glories to the sum of the devotees. All glories to the sum of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Vishnu Padai Krishna Padasai Budale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Gaudavani Vishani Sesasnavari Pasta Jarisita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 19, entitled Appearance of Shukadeva Goswami. Text number 3. Ajaiva Rajam Balam Riddhakosham Prakopita Brahma Kulanalo Me Dahatu Abhadrasya Punar Nam Me Bhut Papiyasi Dhir Dvija Deva Gobhyaha Ajaivarajam Balamriddhakosham Ajaivarajam Balamriddhakosham Prakopita Brahma Kulanalome Prakopita Brahma Kulanalome Tahatavadrasya Puraname Bhut Tahatavadrasya Puraname Bhut Papiyasi Dhir Dvija Deva Gopya Papiyasi Dhir Dvija Deva Gopya Ajaivarajam Balamriddhakosham Prakopita Brahma Kulanalome Tahatavadrasya Punaname Bhut Papiyasi Dhir Dvija Deva Gopya Ajaivarajam Balamriddhakosham Ladies. Devarajam balamriddhakosham Brahma kulanalome Dehatavadrasya purnaname bhut Papiyasi dhir dhija deva gopya. Dahatvavadrasya punaname bhut Papiyasi dhir dhija deva gopya. Adya, this day, eva, on the very, Rajam, kingdom, Balamriddha, strength and riches, Kosham, treasury, Prakopita, ignited by, Brahmakula, by the Brahmana community, Anala, fire, May, is that right? May Dahatu, let it burn me. Abhadrasya, inauspiciousness. Puna, again. Na, not. May, unto me. Abhut, may occur. Papiyasi, sinful. Dhi, intelligence. Vija Brahmanas, is that right? I'm sorry. Dvija, sorry. Brahmanas, Deva, the Supreme Lord. Gopya, and the cows. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I am uncivilized and sinful due to my neglect of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. Therefore, I wish that my kingdom, strength, and riches burn up immediately by the fire of the Brahmana's wrath, so that in the future I may not be guided by such inauspicious attitudes. Please repeat. I am uncivilized and sinful due to my neglect of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. Therefore, I wish that my kingdom, strength, and riches burn up immediately by the fire of the Brahmana's wrath, so that in the future I may not be guided by such inauspicious attitudes. Purport. Progressive human civilization is based on Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and protection of cows. All economic development of the state by trade, commerce, agriculture, and industries must be fully utilized in relation to the above principles. Otherwise, so-called economic development becomes a source of degradation. Cow protection means feeding the Brahminical culture, which leads towards God consciousness. And thus perfection of human civilization is achieved. The age of Kali aims at killing the higher principles of life. And although Maharaj Pariksit strongly resisted the domination of the personality of Kali within the world, The influence of the age of Kali came at an opportune moment, and even a strong king like Maharaj Pariksit was induced to disregard the Brahminical culture due to a slight provocation of hunger and thirst. Maharaj Pariksit lamented the accidental incident, and he desired that all his kingdom, strength, and accumulation of wealth would be burnt up for not being engaged in Brahminical culture, etc. Where wealth and strength are not engaged in the advancement of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection, the state and home are surely doomed by providence. If we want peace and prosperity in the world, we should take lessons from this verse. Every state and every home must endeavor to advance the cause of Brahminical culture for self-purification, God consciousness for self-realization, and cow protection for getting sufficient milk and the best food to continue a perfect civilization. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Gamuroti Vachalam Pangalam Gayate Girimadkipadamanday Sri Gurum Dina Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So here it's interesting to note, and we've heard it before, but it's good to repeat, how responsible the king and government should feel toward their state, their subjects. Right? Guru nasasyat sojano nasasyat daibrim natatsyan. Unless if one is in a position of responsibility, even to the point of being a demigod, being worshipable, one has to feel responsible for the state of affairs. It's not that that as soon as one gets a post, it's do whatever you can to secure yourself, to make your position very secure and profitable. Seems to be the mentality of present society, the present world, where the only interest is to enjoy or be in a very secure position. And whatever happens to the citizens, that's secondary. But according to the Bhagavatam and Vedic culture, and here we see in the attitude of this wonderful king, Maharaj Pariksit, he felt immediately responsible to the point that take it all away. And in the next verse, we see his attitude in the following verses, how he welcomes his impending death because of his genuine feeling of having transgressed the laws of God. And of course, the question may arise that why would a king see this as such an important thing and react in such a in the eyes of some as very severe, that he's prepared to give away everything, wants everything taken away. And Srila Prabhupada points out here in the purport that the answer is that for to have a progressive human civilization, these principles have to be protected. There's three items here which are described by Maharaj Pariksit as being necessary for a progressive, successful society. There's so much talk in the world these days about being progressive, whether it be social, political, economic. We're concerned in so many different venues how to be progressive. But here, the Bhagavatam gives a solution that three items are most necessary, and that is Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. So he took it very serious that if these three important items are not there, then how can society advance properly? How can these citizens be happy? The neglect of Brahminical culture is there. When that is there, then how can the general mass of people know what is their responsibility in society? The Varnashram system is there to not only for self-purification, but it's also there to teach everyone what is your part in the functioning of in the smooth functioning of society. It's just like in any a company, any successful company, everyone knows what their position is. Everyone knows what their part is. Just like a car. A car has so many different parts, and when all those parts are in their proper place, the car functions very nicely and smoothly. If you put oil in the wrong place, or you put gas in the wrong place, or if you don't tighten this, or you loosen that, immediately there's a problem. So the Varnashram system is there not only, again, to teach, not only to purify, because again, everyone has to engage in some sort of work. All right, kama senindira pritir labo jiva javata. Everyone has some sort of function, and if you don't know what your function is, then how can a society progress properly? How can the needs of the people be met? So the king, the government, takes it very seriously. There's a wonderful pastime in the Krishna book, I believe, where the Brahmana, his son died prematurely, right? He went to King Yudhisthira, and Arjuna was deputed to find out what was the cause of this, to the point where he went even to, was it Vaikuntha? Before Lord Narayan. Of course, we know that on the plea of wanting to see this wonderful two-handed form of Krishna, the Lord of Vaikuntha made this arrangement. But to that point, where the leader is prepared to go to the end of earth to try and resolve an issue. This is the purpose of taking on that position. Otherwise, what is the why the headache? Why the pressure? So, uh, first of all, Maharaj Pariksit points out that neglect of Brahminical culture. And then he points out God consciousness. And that God consciousness is to understand uh, what is our relationship, or what is our um, purpose. In other words, self-realization. Atato Brahma Jignasa. One should inquire into who am I, and where am I coming from, and what is my purpose. So that God consciousness has to be there. Otherwise, as Srila Prabhupada points out later on here in this purport, that an attitude of or a forgetfulness of who is the real enjoyer, who's the real owner, and who's the real friend. Typically, people in the world nowadays are focused on themselves being the enjoyer, right? Whatever I do in life is meant to somehow or other facilitate my enjoyment, whether it's developing business connections, or whether it's a family, whether it's working, or whether it's anything. It's all about me being the enjoyer. But that, of course, we know falls short, because in this material world there's no real enjoyer. Especially if you don't own a situation. If you're just a renter, if you're just in this place temporarily, there's no real enjoyment. People don't, you can talk to the typical person who lives in some apartment, and there's no real happiness there, because they don't own it. You know, they'll use it for some time, as long as it facilitates their gratification or their plans, but there's no ownership, so there's no real satisfaction there. So, and then of course, who's your friend? This instruction is given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's very nicely pointed out here by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that Brahminical culture, God consciousness or self-realization, understanding who we are, and who's the real enjoyer, proprietor, and friend. And then he points out protection of cows. And that protection of cows is so that there's sufficient food, and the best foods. People are in great anxiety in the world nowadays for want of food, or the proper food. You can go anywhere and get something from the machines, and then die from it if you eat enough of it. Or you can go to some, I think there was some expose that happened some time back about one guy who went to a fast food place, right? And that's all he ate for some time. And he went through tremendous health issues. I think he was just eating Big Macs all day. Supersize me. Yeah. So they eat a double, triple, and then drink a quadruple gulp, right? And it's all for 99 cents. Although you don't know you're paying for it. Actually, you're paying for it in a very serious way. Very serious way down the line, when you can't breathe, when you can't get up, when you can't walk. when you're on drugs all day in order to operate, in order to open your eyes. So this is not perfection of human society. This is not a progressive human civilization, as Prabhupada is pointing out here. The human progressive society is based on these three important principles. Brahminical culture, acting in such a way that one not only is purified, but you understand what your part in society is, in the whole scheme of things. And of course, God consciousness. What is your relationship with the absolute truth, the Creator, and the cow protection. It's so very. It's actually it's elementary, but because the materialists are so addicted, they're so covered over, so they're so delusional. And Prabhupada points it out here, where he says that without these items, all so-called economic development becomes a source of degradation. And we can see it practically, that the mentality is so much wealth I have today, and I'll have so much more according to my plans. They create all kinds of schemes. Let me some or other get this thing and that thing, and I'll have more in the future. Ishvaroham aham bahogi, siroham balavan sukhi. This is their mentality, that they're the Lord of everything, that they're enjoyers, that they're perfect, powerful, and happy. But in reality, there are none of these things. Nothing is there. And Srila Prabhupada explains that because of their envy, they disregard the teachings of the Vedic knowledge, that which is coming down from the personality of God. And they disregard these things, and as a result, they're bereft of knowledge and befooled. They're completely confused, completely fooled, tricked by a material nature. And as a result, their endeavors, Krishna explains, for perfection are ruined. Even they may work very hard to get some sort of secure position in this world, it's never secure. It gets taken out from underneath them. Instead, they become degraded, as Prabhupada points out here. But these three important items of cow protection means feeding the Brahminical culture. It means supplying proper foods and giving some occupation, and which again, that leads to a God consciousness, or striving for self-realization, and the perfection of human life is achieved, as Prabhupada points out here. The age of Kali aims at killing these higher principles. And we can say practically, there's no austerity in the world. The general mass of people have no idea what austerity means, or mercy. Isn't that the last leg that or is it truthfulness that we're tottering on truthfulness? So there's no lack of, there's a total lack of austerity, um, cleanliness, mercy, and now finally there's this last leg of truthfulness, which is practically gone. There's all of these things are lacking, and as a result, society is becoming gradually and very quickly degraded. Maharaj Pariksit here is described, Srila Prabhupada points out, lamented this accidental incident to the point where he desired that all of his kingdom, his strength, his wealth, everything be burned up for neglecting that Brahminical culture, that responsibility. And again, this is quite contradictory or totally contrasted to what the leaders and the heads of society are doing these days. Instead, they're prepared to do anything, lie, cheat, steal, murder, anything for their position, for their own enjoyment. But if we want prosperity in the world, Srila Prabhupada points out, we should take lessons from this verse, that every state and every home must endeavor to advance the cause of Brahminical culture for self-purification, for self-realization, and for getting the proper foods to continue a perfect civilization. As we were listening the other day, Srila Prabhupada was talking about a Krishna conscious, colorful life. There's the materialistic, colorful life according to the modes of nature, 3 modes. Urdvam gachanti sattvasta madhyeti stani rajasa. You can go up and down as long as you like, forever, according to your material, colorful life. But there is the Krishna conscious, spiritual, cultural life, or colorful life, where everything is dedicated to the satisfaction of Krishna, which actually becomes satisfying. Srila Prabhupada was pointing out how we can dress the Lord in wonderful, colorful outfits, or we can give Him wonderful foods. And Krishna takes these things, but it's not that we don't receive something in return. It's not that Krishna is taking this food and everything is gone. There's nothing for you. No. It's quite the opposite. If we just make plans to some or other dedicate or offer whatever we can in the service of the Lord, then all of that, Krishna is so kind that He returns all of that wealth, that satisfaction, that endeavor that one has put out for Him. So that is the prescription for, as Prabhupada points out here, to continue a perfect civilization. So we'll end there. Are there any questions or comments? Satchitanmoy Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Sometimes, it's a comment, sometimes when we hear about responsibility and leadership, we always think about out there In a big scale, of course, it makes a lot of sense. But also, the responsibility in our back home here, because in other parts of the very literatures it's mentioned that we are supposed to be the Brahmanas, if we are striving to be Brahmanas, become good Brahmanas, we are the leaders. Whatever wrong things they're doing is because they don't have the knowledge that we have. So the responsibility comes to us. Other than this, it seems like there's no other alternative. The other day, I think I mentioned that before, as we were going with Brigupati, traveling to distribute books, thousands and thousands and thousands of cars in the freeway. And I mentioned to him, I said, even if we distribute these books, these people here in the city, when they see the books, first thing that comes to mind, how will that help me to improve my materialistic way of living? So I just mentioned that it's like a call again, an invitation that Srila Prabhupada is making us in this purpose to actually, for us to be the examples, Brahminically speaking, in our behavior, in our dealings with devotees and with people out there, so they can, they can see, oh, there's someone who's living in a higher level, in a higher consciousness, and maybe that can, become interested if we have the place and the environment for them to, see, oh, there's an alternative. Do you think is any other alternative besides these three things that Prabhupada mentions there for the out there people? I'm asking, is there any other alternative for the world?
No. There's no other alternative. There is no other alternative. Prabhupada points out here in the purport that, because we're talking about economics, all economic development of the state by trade, commerce, agriculture, and industries must be fully utilized in relation to these three above principles. Otherwise, all so-called economic development becomes a source of degradation. So, according to this, following these three principles will satisfy or address all of the problems of society, whether it be economic, social, political, personal. Everything is there. It's a perfect formula. And again, we can create all kinds of other forums. Srila Prabhupada points out that this gathering of, as Archita Prabhu pointed out the other day, of great sages who are coming to the bank of the Jamuna to hear this, because it's on the bank of the Jamuna. It's not on the bank of the Ganga. Sometimes we're thinking it's on the bank of the Ganga, but Jiva Goswami points out that it's actually on the bank of the Jamuna. So this was an assembly of sages and saints. They were there to discuss the troubles and processes to get out of this material nightmare, this material world. In past ages, Srila Prabhupada points out, there were no political meetings, conferences. Why? Because there was a rightful king. Because the head of state, the king, was he was a Raja Rishi, a saintly ruler, and everything was there for these citizens. There was no need to come together and have United Nations where everyone discusses so many things and nothing is resolved. In previous ages they had meetings, but what were those meetings? They were at Naimasharanya or most recently they would have Kumbh Mela. People go to Kumbh Mela not to discuss the price of grain, right? They didn't go to Naimisharanya to discuss the property taxes. No, they went there to discuss what is the purpose of a human life. What is the absolute truth, and what is our relationship with that absolute truth? So everything is there within the Vedic scriptures, within the Vedic philosophy, and we don't need to endeavor for so many things separately and waste our time. It's just a waste of time. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.